In an effort to fight climate change, the United Nations has announced Gabon will become the first African country to be paid with international funds to preserve its forest. The $150 million deal will be awarded to Gabon for both reducing its greenhouse gas emissions from deforestation and degradation and absorptions of carbon dioxide by natural forests. For the Central African Forest Initiative, it will be the first time that an African nation will be rewarded by other countries for protecting the forest that the entire planet depends on. It should be noted that Gabon has been a leader in Central Africa in preserving its rainforests, creating 13 national parks since the year 2000 and that cover around 11% of its territory.
Indeed, like you've said, this is the first time that an African country's efforts to combat deforestation have been recognized. The Central African Forest Initiative was welcomed in a statement, but there are mixed reactions in Gabon. Forest activist Marc-Ona Essangi sees it as commotion. For him, Gabon is not a good example in terms of forest protection. And we get more with you, Lynette.
Quelles sont ces raisons? Nous allons tenter de les comprendre avec vous. Nous l'avons en ligne depuis Libreville. Lynette.
That's correct, Ruth. We now speak to Marc-Ona Essangi, the founder of the environmental NGO Brainforest in Libreville, Gabon. Marc, thank you very much for accepting to speak to us today. As an environmental activist, what do you think of the Central African Forest Initiative grant of the $150 million deal for Gabon in its effort to fight deforestation?
First of all, I'm a little surprised by this announcement, simply because the Coffee project is an old project that is under discussion within the civil society. This funding project started with an initial installment that covers 5 years for $11 million, of which the implementation of this phase has never kicked off. The point is that this is a project that supports the National Land Use Plan, which will support, I would say, satellite observation of logging and many others. And there's indeed a question of carrying out studies on participatory mapping throughout the scope of the land. So it's not a new project. What I don't understand is that this funding is being announced as if it were new.
Qu'on annonce ce financement comme si c'était nouveau.
You point out that this project dates back a long time, but it's still the first time that an African country has received such support for its involvement against deforestation. It is indeed for the first time that an African country can benefit from this type of effort, but I also think that in the context of Gabon, there have already been debt efforts, that is, the financing from the French Development Agency that was to be used to repay the debt that was injected into what is called the debt conversion for the financing of conservation activities. The unique aspect of this financing is that it's managed by the French Development Agency, which is responsible for the implementation of this budget. And I think that according to the information which I was able to gather, the French Development Agency had become much more demanding in terms of managing this fund for the $11 million, so there was a delay in implementing the phase of the budget.
And do you think Gabon is really a good example in terms of preserving the environment when you consider the importance of logging in the country's economy?
Logging remains important in Gabon. It's important to remember that 73% of the forest permits located in Gabon have been granted to Chinese companies. And it's no secret that the practices of Chinese companies in our forests are not practices that are in compliance with the forest regulations. The work of my organization, Brainforest, we have always been among those who believe that Chinese foresters who do not respect the forest regulations should have their licenses withdrawn.
Alors, quand on regarde
When we look at the rate of illegal logging in our country, when we look at the level of poaching, I simply think that Gabon is not a very successful example, especially since the Water and Forestry Department, it must be said and it's recognized by everyone, is immersed in a level of corruption that even the ministers who work in this department have difficulty tackling corruption.
De cette corruption.
Thank you very much, Mark, for giving us this insight. Mark Ona Essangi, founder of the environmental NGO Brain Forest in Libreville, Gabon. We are glad that you're still watching the Morning Call right here on African News. Remember, you can get all these and other stories from across the continent and beyond the continent on TV and on our African News website, www.africanews.com. And still to come in the program, disappointment in Guinea-Bissau over Ansu Fati's new nationality. The football sensation who is eligible to play for Guinea-Bissau, where he was born, and Portugal, through his grandparents, was granted Spanish citizenship. For Barcelona, the move gives the Spanish FA the liberty to use him in the Under-17 World Cup. We'll be giving you more details on this and other stories after the break.